Here's how I created a horror movie scene using Videoleap's powerful editing tools. It's actually really easy. First, I secured my phone to a tripod and then walked over to the first position I wanted to appear in. I then jumped in place multiple times. I then moved to the left to the next position and jumped again. I kept moving in the direction I wanted to look like I was floating in and jumping at each new position. Finally, I came very close to the camera, which later would be cut to abruptly to create a sort of jump scare. Then I opened the Videoleap app and brought the clip into a new project. First I split off a few seconds at the beginning, where the frame was empty. Then I tracked to the point where I appear in the frame and split the clip again, discarding the part in between. Next I cut to the first point where I'm in mid-jump, and made a cut, and then made another cut right before I begin to come back down. I repeated making these cuts at every jump. And finally, the last cut was when I came very close up to the camera. I then tracked back through the sequence, deleting the clips in between the jumps. And here's what it looks like so far. Finally, I duplicated the first clip of the empty frame and dragged it to the end of the sequence to create a seamless loop. Next, I navigated to the close-up clip, duplicated it, and then brought it up to the mixer layer, exactly above the same clip below. I then navigated to adjustments and increased the exposure and brightness to bring out the shape of the face. I then navigated to mask and applied an inverted circular mask over my face area. Finally, I softened the effect with a defocus layer over the same area as the mask. I then exported the sequence and opened the exporter clip into a new project. I selected the clip and navigated to adjustments. I raised the exposure and the brightness and then decreased the saturation. I also added a slight green tint. I then split the clip at the beginning and the end of the floating section and then increased the speed. Then to make the figure look like it was disappearing and reappearing at the end, I split a very small portion of the close-up clip and duplicated it 2 extra times. I brought these duplicates up to the mixer layer and spaced them over top of the empty frame at the end. Next I navigated to glitch and chose the CRT effect. I decreased the barrel to 0 and increased the brightness to 100. I then trimmed the layer down to less than a second and positioned it at the point between the first empty frame and when the figure first appears. I then duplicated the CRT layer repeatedly, placing it at any points where there were abrupt cuts. Finally, I added a film grain effect over the entire sequence to tie everything together. And here's the final result.